School violence. Few things can create a sense of dread like those two words. Those words conjure up images of places and names like Bath, Michigan, Jonesboro, Columbine High School, and Virginia Tech. Recently, Ohioans had to add Chardon to that list. While instances of school violence are very rare, we still need to know how to recognize the factors that lead to an individual acting out violently and to be able to stop them. Law enforcement agencies have come up with many guidelines and factors to look for when trying to prevent school violence. Special Agent Harry Trombitas of the FBI has agreed to share some of those with us today.
Okay, that's right, Neil. Schools, first of all, are very safe places for our kids. One of the safest places a student can be is at a school, much safer than even at home or certainly out on the street. However, there are some things that we've learned over the years. Law enforcement agencies like the FBI, the Secret Service, individuals like Dr. Chris Mahandi have all learned that there are some things for us to watch for. And that's really the purpose of this video, is to get you, the viewer, to pay attention to these things. And if you see somebody that might be on this, as we call it, the pathway to violence, that you speak up, you let a responsible person know. What law enforcement has learned through research is that most of us are able to let the slight sort of roll off our backs. But there's a small segment of our population. We term these people the brittle people. These are individuals who are like human sponges. They cannot let anything go. Every little slight, every little thing that someone says is absorbed, and it stays within that person, and it festers and it boils until at some point they act out violently. The good news about this is that people don't just snap. Typically, there's a pathway to violence where it takes roughly 2 weeks or longer for an individual to reach the point where they act out violently. And what we often see are things called leakage. Those are little signs that people let out that they're on this pathway to violence. And we want people to be aware of these signs so that, again, if they see somebody that appears to be on this pathway, what we want people to do is to get involved, to step up. If they see something that bothers them, concerns them, assume that it can happen, and they need to go to an appropriate person to let them know about it. Okay, one of the things that I want to stress is, first of all, that threats can come from any source: students, faculty, staff, parents, outsiders. But today we're going to focus in on the student as the threat. We've got a troubled student here who is, over the last course of about a couple of weeks, has been talking to his friends about having some issues with somebody at school. He's getting very angry. He's made different comments about how he intends to get back at these people. Recently, he's made some comments about how he's gone out and he's got access to a weapon. And while he's telling his friends this, they're getting very concerned that maybe he's going to act out violently and maybe hurt somebody. Okay, what we had was a scenario where Trevor, our troubled student, told Molly some things that he's thinking about doing. And Molly's listening to this conversation, as the other students are, and they're realizing that maybe Trevor means business. Maybe he really does intend to hurt somebody. And so she's thought about this all night, and even though she doesn't necessarily want to tell on one of her friends, she realizes that something could happen, and it's really her responsibility to tell somebody. And she's going to talk to her favorite teacher, and she's going to let her teacher know the conversation that she had with Trevor yesterday, some of the things that he said, how she went home, looked on the Facebook page, saw some quasi-threats on the page. Molly has now told her teacher, Regina, her concerns about the things that Trevor has said. Regina, the teacher, has listened to these things, and she has to agree that there's some concern there. She wants to do something with the information. So she reaches out for the school resource officer, Officer Deckup, and they discuss some of the comments in that Trevor made. We can't assume that Trevor was just blowing smoke, that he really didn't intend to hurt anybody. Once a threat is made like that, we have to take the threat seriously, and we have to investigate it. And the whole idea is to get proactive, to be involved, to take every threat as potentially serious. Okay, in this scenario, what we've got is Regina, our teacher, is giving the students instruction on writing an assignment. Typically what we see is people who are having some issues in that, oftentimes their thoughts and that come out in these writing assignments, and they give us a good insight into what they're really thinking. In this scenario, Chris, our troubled student, is writing some things that really express some anger, some depression. He's upset about things. He feels hopeless. Our teacher, Regina, has collected the papers, and she's reading through the papers, and then she comes to Chris's paper, our troubled student. Regina's reading Chris's paper, and there's a lot of dark things in there. He's talking about things that have been going on in his life that are not good. He's upset. He feels like he's stuck. He's in a hopeless situation. He feels all his friends are against him. So all of this information can come out, and we call it leakage. And teachers and others, parents, everybody needs to be aware that this is one of the ways that this information can come out, that somebody is having some issues, having some trouble. This is really going to concern Regina, and she realizes this is not normal, and she wants to bring it to the attention of the appropriate people. Okay, again, we're talking about leakage, how information can come out just through regular writings and that, and we want our teachers to be observant, and what we're going to have in the rest of this scenario is we're going to have Regina obviously is concerned about some of the things that our troubled student Chris wrote, and she's concerned. She feels that she needs to do something with the information, so she's asked another teacher to come in. In comes Mike, a second teacher. Regina and Mike are talking about the paper. She's telling him, you know, hey, I just had the kids write a simple homework assignment. Chris turned in this paper, and it's very dark. Obviously, there appears to me to be something going on in his life. Regina and Mike have talked about their concerns. Mike agrees with Regina that there are some things in there that you wouldn't normally find in a casual writing. So they've reached out for the school resource officer, Officer Deckup, to come in and also to take a look at the paper. And their goal is to share this information with Officer Deckup because they're concerned. They want to make sure that if there is something going on in Chris's life, that they're able to get it to the right person for follow-up, for further investigation. Well, their ultimate goal is to get Chris some help. Our goal is to get proactive and to prevent Chris from getting on this pathway to commit violence. Okay, the take-home on this is simply to get involved. We want people to be proactive. If you become aware of a threat, be it a written threat, somebody saying something, seeing something on Facebook, we want you to get proactive. Tell somebody responsible. Tell your parents. Tell a teacher. Tell a school resource officer. Let someone know. Let us check it out so that we can potentially save someone from traveling down that pathway to violence. We want to get proactive so that we're able to intervene, get that person some help, and possibly prevent some of these things that we're seeing on TV.
Well, thank you, Harry, for laying out those guidelines for how to prevent school violence. This Week TV would like to give a special thanks to New Albany High School for opening up its classroom for us to shoot today. We'd also like to give a special thanks to our student actors who participated, Molly, Trevor, Chris, and Ava. And also a special thanks to our teacher actors, Mike Moreland and Regina Moreland. And of course to School Resource Officer Kevin Deckup of the New Albany Police Department.